it's a huge parking lot. But when I was down in Florida, I noticed they had van and truck handicap right in the front. So there was those two spaces, and in fact, 2 handicapped vehicles were going to park there, and the police said, no, this is for truck or van only. So why not take a model like that? And I know our Senator Chris Brown, he would be more than willing to listen. I don't know if you've tried even reaching out to anybody in that sense. I mean, I know Congressman Lobiondo is on his way out, unfortunately, but there are a lot of lawmakers that are readily accessible that can help. In fact, Chris Brown has been on Two Chicks and a Chef with Shore Local, and he loves Gilchrist pancakes. I know that for a fact because we asked him. And I don't usually like to get on politics, but here I know that we can. Even reaching out to Harry Hurley, he has a ton of political connections that can help you.
Even make everything the same.
Just make it the same.
Because it is hard, and even the spots that are marked as van accessible, which out of etiquette, people are asked, that have handicap stickers, to not park in those if there is a regular handicap spot available.
Right.
And I get that. However, the van accessible spots, all wheelchair van lifts or ramps are either rear, meaning it's in the trunk, or they're on passenger side. There has never been a vehicle with a driver's side lift or ramp. So I pose the question, this isn't necessarily to you,
right?
But I pose the question to anyone listening, why are there van accessible spots and there is zebra striping on the driver's side of the parking spots? It's marked as van accessible, meaning that, me and my husband can park in this spot, but the zebra unloading zone is on the driver's side of the vehicle, not on the passenger side where the vans unload at.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And, I think that comes into whoever is designing the parking lot. Whichever architect. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. So as we are seeing all the new Walmarts and Chick-fil-A's and everything else that is building up in this area.
Which is good.
Which is great. I mean, we're growing. I mean, the Hard Rock and all that, are they thinking in that manner? And obviously they're not. And I mean, as Cindy knows, with a child with disabilities, I mean, it can make it difficult.
Yes.
I know there is parking where for women that are pregnant.
Right.
I got the Babies R Us, or now I don't know if they're even
Kmart does it.
Right. I've watched people park in handicap parking lots that don't belong there at all.
Right.
And they don't care.
Or park in the police spots in front of Target.
And they don't care.
Right. Yep.
And
education, though.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize that those spots aren't if nothing else is left. Those spots are what they are for a reason. And I think until people experience it, like the police spots in front of Target, I think until you're involved with somebody in that field, you don't understand the importance of that. Until you're involved with somebody who has a disability, Chuck's eyes has opened up quite a bit since being married to me and knowing me for only 7 years. Until you're involved and until you see it, until you're affected, you don't see the importance of it. So it's education, I think, is the most important part, and letting people know, look, you do realize when it's raining and it is an issue for me to get in and out of a vehicle, to go to Walmart. If they're not willing to make those spots wider, just think, okay, there's elderly people that have handicap spots, or, there's people that are, able to walk. They're such a width because I need that space to maneuver around my vehicle. It's not just because, we need extra space. It's there for a reason.
Right.
So I think if all the handicap spots were made across the board the same size, a couple years ago I had this issue at Sam's in Pleasantville. I went in there and I filled out a comment card and I asked for a photocopy of it. And I know the girl behind the desk to this day probably still thinks I'm nuts. But I had a mission, and my mission was successful. A couple months later, they repainted their parking lot.
Wow.
And I was waiting for a call from the gentleman. I don't know if he owns it or he's the general manager, but I was waiting for a phone call from him to tell me that 92 inches was close enough to 96 because I needed a way to relate to him. And you know how I was going to do it? Next time my bill is $96, I'm going to give you 92. because it's close enough, right?
Right.
So 4 inches to me is like $4 to you as a business owner. So I need to find ways to relate to people to make them understand. So one person at a time, I'll educate them.
So have you been successful with other businesses besides Sam's or
Sam's has so far been the only one that has responded positively. Hamilton Mall has not. Produce Junction Strip Mall has not. Their handicap cutout is actually in front of their gym. It's very convenient for when people in wheelchairs want to go to the gym. Not saying that we can't, but of all places to put a wheelchair cutout. So I called the guy, a business over there. I won't put them out there like this, but a business in that strip mall provided me with the owner information for that whole strip mall. And I believe he's located in Cherry Hill, and I called him, and he told me he'll look into it. And it's been about 2 years. He's still on my list. I called the Hamilton Mall. They're the company that operates the Hamilton Mall. And I said, look, the entrance near Ruby Tuesdays, the handicap spots are great. There's a lot of space. People park in them. They're not supposed to, and I handle that on my own. But I said, when you cross the street and you go up through the little wheelchair cutout, and there's that little red square for the textured, for people who need it to know when they're going in and out of the street, that's great. But you go up about 2 feet, and there's a cement curb planter. Why?
Yeah, I mean,
Just move it a foot or two. Why is there and it would be tight if somebody was pushing somebody in a wheelchair, or if I wasn't as, there are people that have limited ability in their hands when driving a wheelchair. I know somebody personally who actually drags the whole side of their wheelchair on that cement curb every time they go in the mall. And I went to security, and you know what security told me? Go in a different door. I don't want to go in a different door.
right. I mean, is that the only door? That's the door that has the
There's actually
the handicap,
there's a handicap push button, and I was told to just use the door on the opposite side of the building.
which doesn't have one.
I don't believe so, no.
No, right, because I think that is the only one that does
Right.
the main entrance.
So you put a handicap push button at an entrance, and then you tell me to go use another door. So I have a list, and it one at a time. And with everything in my life, I met an assemblyman about 2 weeks ago at a gala up in Ocean County, and I gave him the short version of everything. And I said, look, I can use your help, but you can ask my parents. You can either help me or you can watch me do it. I wanted to go to Stockton, and they said, okay, and I did it. I wanted to drive. They said, yeah, okay, and I did it. I want to be a 911 dispatcher. Get a degree first. Okay. And look what I'm doing today, 10 years later.